So we are live. I need to cut my damn hair. They have become far too big, right? I know I need to cut my hair. So today we'll be starting with 900 problems as usual. And on the CP31 sheet, we have already done around 10 problems in the 900 rating. Seven viewers come. I don't know why. So basically, we will be starting from CP31 sheet on a 900 rated list, and from there we will try to at least solve 3 to 4 problems today in the next 2 hours. It will be pouring stream for the non-coders, so they will leave as usual. And so they left. So basically, for the people who like coding, they can just see me code, see me come up with solutions, see me problem solve, and they can problem solve with me as well. So that's the goal. Let me write the goal in the chat as well. Goal for today. Today is all next class. I'll be only live streaming today for 2 hours because it's already 8 and we have to do other stuff as well, right? We can't just do CP all day. I actually did a lot. I actually studied, did lead code today in the afternoon, and so I did around like 2 versions, and uh, the last question was pretty tough. And it took me around 1 hour 55 minutes to do both of those questions or to basically can understand them. So I have already done around 1 hour 1 hour 50 minutes of CP and 2 hours more. I think will be enough for today, right? Because I also need to study uh, Py- uh, Python libraries for machine learning. So yeah, let's start. Let's start. Uh, There I was asking. I don't know. I was dictating it to it, and I don't know what it took. But it basically, I was asking, if I practice the questions of every day from the CP31 sheet, what rating will I get to in a year? I wanted to hear the answer like at least 16, and that's what he said. That if you consistently practice and understand the tutorials, understand the questions, think yourself logically, and then create. If you don't get the answer, read the tutorial carefully, then you will be able to. And also give like weekly contests, like give contests around 2 to 3 times a week. If you do all these things, then it's very highly likely that you will be able to actually get to that rank. So I'm quite excited for that as well. See my rank go up in the next competition. I have to do this, and yeah, that stream is working fine. As always, it just doesn't work, then fuck you, Geo, for not giving us the net we needed to succeed. I'm just kidding. Don't demonetize me. Even though I have not even been monetized yet, I still don't want to have the prospect of getting demonetized. It's kind of scary, bhai. It's really scary. So let's start the timer. I don't know for folks who can't see, it's 13 currently, right? And, oh, not this mode. Just so now it started, right? It started. The war has begun. The war has begun. We need to start. Uh, Do I need to cut anything? Yeah, I need to remove this. And that's it. That's it. That's it. I also need to change the boilerplate, right? And I need to upgrade it so that it also includes these rough tags, these tags which everyone needs. And the management of the afterbus fleet has given the order to replace the tires with summer tires on all buses. It has given the order to replace winter tires with summer tires on all buses. You own a small bus service and you have just received an order to replace N tires. You know that the bus fleet owns two types of buses. The two axles, these buses have four wheels, and three axles, these buses have six wheels. You don't know how many buses of which type fleet owns, so you wonder how many buses the fleet might have. That will determine the minimum and maximum number of buses that can be in the fleet if you know that the total number of wheels for all buses is n. It is t, and then the second line case is the n, the number of wheels for all buses. For each test case, input the answer in a single line x and y. X is the minimum number of buses and y is the maximum number of buses. There is no suitable number of buses for the given. Print the number minus 1 as answer. What's this by 10 to the power 8? Basically, there needs to be a mathematical formula or something. Okay, so start. So the bus tire is for the minimum aerosol system. One, the minimum in this version would also be. What is this? What is this? I'm so skeptical about the last page. Like, will that work or not? And that amount of time it's taking, I don't think that it will work. But let's see. Oh yeah, it didn't work. And why did the answer for the first n modulus 4 is not equal to 0? And there should be an answer. So that's my mistake. Let's try it again. Failed again. But the question we need to ask is that it failed for which test case? That's something we need to think about. But fine, till the seventh one. For even for the 24th, but for this type of a value, an answer with a minus sign. Why is that? By four. Uh, why should be n by 4? Should I do it long n? This would be a mistake actually. Because the number is like too big. It's not in the range of an n. So that could be a possible error from my side. And now we'll check again. I think this time it will work. Yeah, it worked. It was a fairly simple problem to be honest. Now I will look like a fool if this doesn't run. Then I will definitely look like a fool once live. Obviously, not anyone is watching right now, so I can be a fool. But still, if this works, then I will explain as usual. And I will also no, it didn't work. Now the good question will be to look at the constraints. The good approach will be to look at the constraints once again and think from first principles that it didn't work. Everyone needs to remember first principles at least once in their life. As to say it in an interview, in a live stream, it makes them look cool. Why? Because Elon said it, and anything Elon says automatically becomes cool. If n is 1, then what will happen? If n is 1, then 4 modulus n will be 1 not equal to 0 and 6 modulus not equal to 0. So the answer will be minus 1, right? Then for 2, that will be the same case. For 3, for 4 as no, for 4, that shouldn't be the case, right? Because if n is 4, then the minimum should be 1 and maximum should also be 1. So this is wrong. But no, this won't work because there is an and. So if n modulus n modulus 4, 4 modulus 4 is not equal to 0, but it is equal to 0, so false. So the if condition won't work, then else LLY equals to n by 4, which will be 1. Maximum number of buses, okay? If n modulus 6 is equal to 0, which it isn't. So then 4 by 6 plus 1. So the 4 by 6 will be 0 once again and plus 1. So x and y value will come out to be 1, which is indeed correct. So there is something uh, other than this which I am. So it's not about the constraints then. There is something else. Spring has. Maximum number of buses can in every case it will be n by 6 only in my opinion, because even if like it's not divided by 4, let's say 30, and we will take 4 till, well, let's take a different test case, which is 29. But 29 won't work because it's obviously not divided by 4 and 6 both. So it will give a minus 1. So what are other test cases? We can take 42 as an example. And if we think that the maximum number of process will be 42 divided by 4, which is basically 10, right? And if we think, but obviously near 42, it doesn't make sense. But if we think about like the 9 buses will be of 4 tires, the 9 fours are 36, then the one will be a 6 tire bus, and so the answer will come out to be 40, and that's why it's correct. Then the minimum number of buses for can be 42. 6 since 42 is divided by 6, x will be 42 by 6. 42 by 6 is 7, so the minimum number of buses will be 7. Wrong. That's wrong. Sunny, and in the chat, things. You can learn CPP from a channel called Apana College, which has a playlist, dedicated CPP playlist for DSA. You can simply just go through the lectures and the teacher teaches CP, the needed CPP for DSA. It's actually a really great playlist, not honest TSA for CPP as well. And you can learn a lot from it. It's a really, really good CPP playlist for both competitive, for both learning CP, learning C++, and for learning data structures and algorithm. I still follow it to this day, even though ma'am is not uploading lectures as frequently as she used to. But I still like the quality of the lectures and the depth of her, uh, what can I say, depth of her simple lines. Like she says very simple lines which hold a lot of depth. Like if you listen carefully, you will understand. You will come to understand that she knows a lot and she understands the concept deeply, and she tries to teach it in such a way. Like she doesn't give just surface level knowledge to anyone. She actually tries to give very depth in knowledge to the viewer. And obviously, this is YouTube, so take take what you can from it. But I like her quite a bit, and I like the way she teaches. Back to the question. Okay, so I'm very close, but there's a fundamental mistake in my parallel teaching. What does n modulo 4 mean? We can make all buses four-wheel buses. Similarly, n modulo 6 means that we can make all buses six wheels. But the problem allows a mixture of four wheels and six wheels. I know that, but your code says take like if n is equals to 8, the maximum number of buses with four be 2 and 2. For a test case of n is equal to 10, I could say this. Ah, yeah, my code fails actually. That's why I was thinking of instead of writing this condition, I was thinking of writing it in like twos and threes. Well, what would be like 4 plus 6? If n modulus 4 is not if it's not divisible by 4 and then n plus and then also not divisible by 10, because that's the only case where it will not be divided by 4 and 6, but it will be divided by their sum, right? That's the only case which I can think of. Yeah, even that's valid. So now 10 won't be the correct. Yeah, that's not right. Mm, So we need to think of better a better if condition. If n is 40, so how do we make? I can think of a simple condition if it's not divisible by 2 and also not divisible by 3. Then you can basically take it. Uh, uh, yeah, I think that's the right condition to be honest. And modulus 4 is modulus 4 2 and modulus. But I know even this shouldn't be like totally right to be honest, because this is a half formed thought which I made, and I shouldn't actually copy paste it without thinking it through. But since I am who I am, a dumb human being, I will do the necessary deed and actually do paste it. If like we learned just yesterday that we need to take as low values as possible when checking divisibility, because the higher we come, we get the more, like if something is not divisible by 10, then it also means that it is not divisible by 2 and 5. And something is not divisible by, let's say, 32, then it also means that it won't be divisible by 2, it won't be divisible by 4, it won't be divisible by 8. So we need to check the divisibility like prior, like not prior, like with the earliest natural numbers. I think let's take some counter examples. Like what will happen if n is 17 and won't be divided by 2 and won't be divided by 3 and the answer will be minus 1. True. What if n is 18? It will be divided by 2, so it won't be minus 1, but and it will be divided by 3 as well. So let's take a different example. What about n 20? It will be divided by 2, so minus 1 won't be a correct answer. Why? When n is 20, the maximum number of buses will be 4 into 5, which is 20. That's true. And the minimum number of buses will be, since it's not divisible by 6, it will be n divided by 6 plus 1, which is 4. Oh, fuck. Yeah. And how? 6 into 2 plus 4 into 2. 6 into 2 is 12 plus 4 into 2, which is 8. 12 plus 8 is 20. So that's also true. Now let's take a different example, which is 22. Now 22 is not divisible by 4 and it's also not divisible by 6, but it's when we take two conditions like 2 and 3, it's divisible by 2, not divisible by 3, but still it's divisible by 2. So we look at in the else condition. LLY is equal to n by 4, which is basically n by 4. 22 by 4, 5. And 5. So that's also the right condition. That also works because then if N is 22, then maximum number of buses can be 4 into 4, 16, and then 22 minus 16, which is 6. So the last bus will be a three-axle bus. So the total number of maximum buses can be 5. Then n modulus 6 obviously is not 2. So n by 6 plus 1 will be the uh, will be executed, and 22 by 6 is 3 plus 1 4. Now let's think about the minimum number of buses which can be. The minimum number of buses which can be 666 for 18, and then 22 minus 6, which is again 4, and that last bus will be a two axle bus. So I think this should work. And it didn't work. What is the test case on which it failed? What is something? Every bus contributes an even number of fields. Therefore, if n is odd or if n is even, that's not enough. Or zero is about the supercondition becomes n modulus 2 and is. Yeah, we can use seal, but then long the answer will come in double, which will be annoying. I don't want that. Yeah, this is also something which you can do. I'm not able to listen. Why can't this condition work? counter examples for which this condition doesn't then it's just by worthy, then maybe I can make it using frequencies. Oh, oh yes. So it will work for 22. So basically, we just need it. Why is 9 impossible? Oh yeah, this condition is wrong because we forgot the fundamental condition that even plus even gives even, and so in any scenario possible, an odd number can't be the answer. But with this condition, like for this condition, like for example, if n is 27, then modulus 2 is not equal to 0, true, false. And since one of them is false, uh, this won't get executed. No, yeah, but it should get executed because 27 can't be formed using this. So that's not right. And modulus 2 is, is equal to 1. So, which means it is not divisible by 2, then that's wrong. Or n is less than 4. So, this is the right condition basically. We were pretty close to be honest with this one. Yeah, we just had to guess. One thing I totally missed about this problem was that if n is odd, it won't work in any possible scenario. This is the one key observation which I missed in this problem. 1679. Just let me submit it and then I will also re-explain the entire code so that you guys can understand it in like in a much better way. So in this code, we were asked that we have given n as the number of tires, and we had to calculate the maximum and the minimum number of buses we can form out of it. And the buses are of two types, like the buses with 4 tires and the buses with 6 tires. So the maximum number of buses will be obviously n by 4 in every case, and if there is n for which n is not divided entirely, 4 is not dividing it entirely, like 32, not by 30, then basically we will like instead of going till 7, we will go till 6, and then we will add a 6 tire bus, which will eventually come to 7. So it will work. And for this test case, Uh, actually, a good way to write this would be to make this just x equals to n seal of n by 6. Like seal SEIL is a function which, for example, if n by 6 is 3.3, then it will make it to 4. If n by 6 is 3.7, it will make it to 4. If n by 6 is 3.00001, it will again make it to 4. But why was I avoiding it? Because I didn't want to have the hassle of converting it to double. But there is a better way to do it. We can simply do something like this. Instead of doing this whole tandama, we can do x is equals to n plus 5 by 6. And if you think about it, obviously, if like this is wrong. Why? Because of the operator precedence. We wanted first to we wanted first that n plus 5 is added and then it's divided by 6. But because of operator precedence, division will happen first. 5 and 6 will be divided, and 0 will be the answer. So LLX in the end will be equal to n always. So this is what what we wanted. So we'll separate them by a bracket. Okay. And now let's understand then how this was equal to my earlier statements. Like if n is 32, then n plus 5 will be 37 by 6, which is 6. And did I got the answer as 6? Let's think about it. For 32, 6, we will take 6 fours are 24, and then we will take 2 of 8s, 2 of 4s, which is 6, right? Like 4 plus 2, 6. So this is correct. If let's take like n is divisible by 6, then n is equal to 30. So n plus 5, 35, and 6 is uh, 6 is 30, 35, 35 divided by 6, which is 5. And that's true, right? So 5 is done in such in a way that if n plus 5, if n is just if n is equal to 6, then the answer will remain the same as n by 6. And if it's even n plus 1, then the answer will change. We can do this for we can do this with any number. Like if I had to check with 8, then I could have done just simply n plus 7. But obviously, I'm not smart enough. No, maybe I'm smart enough. I'm just not willing. I'm not willingly. No, I'm not willing enough. I'm not willing to actually learn this pattern. A simple way to write the code is accepted. So we did our first question. Now let's move on to our second question. It's a P problem. But obviously this came in a dip 3 competition, so we can we can play around with it. It's not out of our reach. Even if it is out of our reach, we will still try, right? Because that's who we are. People who never give up, who keep trying until the end. That's at least my motto. If you can't probably see in the pages, but I had written somewhere, never give up. Or maybe I haven't written. I will write and stick it on the wall that we should never give up. Should try our hardest. At least that's what Elon taught us. I still don't know what this line means. I should probably search and understand what this line means. It basically means something that makes our process a bit faster. Obviously, in the lower ranks, it doesn't really matter, but when you get to the echelons for competitive programming, these things do matter a lot. But right now, for noobs like me, we don't really need this. But I just asked ChatGPT for a boilerplate code and it gave me this. And so I've just learned it over time after solving 45, 46 questions. So let's start this question. Make it increasing. Given n integers a1 to an, you can perform the following operations on them. Select any element a1, ai 1 to n and divide it by 2, round down. Okay. Okay. In other words, you can displace any selected element ai with the value ai by 2, where will round down the real number x. Okay. Output the minimum number of operations that must be done for a sequence of integers to obtain a strictly increasing array. Okay. Or determine that it is impossible to obtain such. Note that elements cannot be swapped. The only possible operation is to swap. So we can select any element. We can select any element, divide it by 2, round it down. Okay. Or and our end goal is to make a array which is strictly increasing. Okay. For example, n is 3 and a sequence of number is 365, then it is enough to perform two operations on it. Uh, Write the number 6 by 23 instead of the number a by 26, 335. Then replace ai equals to 3 with 3 by 2, which is 1.5, and now 135. The resulting sequence is 135, which is a strictly increasing array. Input line t equals number 4, number of test cases in my input. The first line of each test case contains a single letter n is 30, pretty small, neat. The second line of each test case contains exactly n integers a1 to an, and ai is roughly between 0 and 2.10 to the power 9. Okay. There is a single number of separate lines, the minimum number. For each test case, print a single number on a separate line, the minimum number of operations to perform on the sequence to make it strictly increasing. If a strictly increasing sequence can't be obtained, print minus 1. Okay. I don't have any idea how we'll do this, but let's write the simple things to get us some confidence that we are actually making some progress on the question. What are the test cases for which the answer will be minus 1? That's the first thing that we need to think about. That what are the test cases? Like this is one. If the test cases, if all the values are strictly decreasing, then answer will be minus 1. What about if the values are not strictly decreasing, but uh, just equal? Can there be an answer? Let's take a high value. If n is 4 and the array is mm, 15, 15, 15, 15. It's not clear that we can perform a operation any number of times in an array or at most once, but it's not written, so we can perform any number of times, in my opinion. So that makes the condition a bit harder. Like this 7, on this, on this, but it just basically, basically, uh, do any one of you have any way? CPP is generally considered better for C++ is generally considered better for DSA, primarily because STL provides a lot of functions, shortens providers and provides, bhai, you get distracted. not able to understand the solution, right? This problem, like nothing is coming to me. Just don't understand why nothing is coming to me. That's what I'm both thinking. What happens if all elements are equal? And we'll have to check for a specific case that uh, if n is greater than or at least equal to 2 to the power e to the power n minus 1, this is where m is equal to uh, m is equal to m is equal to m is iterate backwards, dividing elements until strictly increasing. For each I divide AI until AI is less than AI plus 1. Increment answer if AI becomes 0, check impossibility condition. Now, the problem is that I don't know what is the impossibility condition. Impossibility condition. What happens if all elements are equal? Uh, fucking happens. Fucking not happens. I think I'm overcomplicating a simple problem. That's also something which can happen. For each I divide AI until AI is less than AI plus 1. If AI becomes 0, check impossibility condition. But AI can be 0, right? But not all. But if AI becomes zero and it's not the last of AI. I got the solution. I got the solution. If AI, or if AI becomes equal to zero and I is not equal to zero, then impossibility condition. Possibility condition. Meaning basically that if we keep on dividing and eventually AI becomes zero, and then only two cases can happen. Either I is equal to zero, like it's the last element, and it can be like it can't it it's valid, and or I is greater than zero and it's wrong. Because if the if the index two digit is zero, then index one digit can't be lesser than zero. They can't be minus one, minus two, minus three because it's explicitly stated in the problem statement that AI can only go till zero. Like obviously, because the statements are like AI is positive, so no matter how much we keep on dividing it, it will always come to be zero because we are always taking it in end or long end. We are not taking it the AI in double. So that's actually a great solution, great way to approach this problem. And I'm actually quite angry that I wasn't able to. Like the problem with doing code forces is that you actually come to understand that a lot of thing is like a lot of these questions are based on thinking one specific observation, and you just start to think of that one specific operation. But here it's a simple algorithm which I had to write. And if this question would have been presented to me in lead code, I probably would have been able to solve this question. Because in lead code, I know it's very rare that I have to have a specific observation to solve a problem. At least a medium or an easy problem. Most medium or easy problem. But in code forces, it's quite different, right? I equals to n minus 2. I is greater than equal to 0. I plus plus. While b of I is greater than or equal to b of I plus 1, keep on dividing b of I is equal to b of I by 2. And in answer equal to 0, answer plus plus. If v of I is equal to 0, if v of I is equal to 0, and I is not equal to 0, uh, flag equals to 1, break equals to 0, if flag equals to 1, we just break if flag equals to 1, and say out minus 1 left line service. Write this in one single line, but I am unique, and so I will write this using long if else statements, even when I know ternary statements do exist. Not able to write clean code and not even correct code. Why is the answer -1? Why? In every case, why did the answer came out to be flag of like why every time this was triggered, flag of I minus one was triggered. Let's take a solution. Let's take let's like this shouldn't be true by like or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4. So, P of I, n is 5, so it should be n minus 2, right? I is n minus 2, I is n minus 2. V of I is, while V of I is greater than or equal to V of I plus 1, but it's not. So we will break out and flag is still like 1, right? So we will go back to here. It's still not true. We will go back to here. It's still not true. We will go back to here, and it's still not true. And we are going to oh fuck, psi plus plus. It should be I minus minus, obviously. Like I'm so habituated to writing I plus plus that I don't even see that we are actually running backwards, not running forwards this time. Obviously, by the time it's taking, it's not correct. Why does it gives all the answers as -1? Why is this connection getting triggered? If flag is equal to no, flag is equal to 1, and flag is equal to 1. then What are these kinds of mistakes that I'm making? So it passes, and hopefully it also passes here 16753. Obviously, I wasn't the one who had the insight for this question. So even if this passes, it doesn't mean that I solved this. And I don't think that using this flag so many times is the right approach. Uh, like this shouldn't how a solution should look like. It's not clean. Why is there a daily test to math shouldn't to the power n by 9 and it's divided by 2 every time, so it should get like 10 to the power 9, 10 to the power causing it to have a daily, what's causing it to have a daily, what's causing it to have a daily, thought about. Oh, here I is equals to 0. And I is equals to the root of all 0 and 4, and then what will happen then? The last value. What about if you I plus V of I is equals to 0, and that is true, or V of I for like the first index gets 0, and the second index, like this should also get false. Okay. I think this should also be a case. Equal to 0, and we are trying plus 1, 0. But if we have I, but if there is a v of I plus 1 which is equals to 0, and it's not equal to 10, then this should already be triggered, and there should be a false value. But if, like for example, if v of I is 0 and I naught is like its I is 0, but if I plus 1 is also 0, like I'm basically thinking about the first index. Like this condition will work for everything except for the first if IDX is 1. Or sorry, IDX is 0, because if IDX is 0 and V of I is 0, it's 0 and I is not equal to 0, which means false, and it will just keep on getting 0 0 0 0 0 because this condition will never work. But there can be a condition if V of I is equal to 0 and V of I plus 1 is equal to 0, which means both IDX 0 and IDX 1 are 0. Then we have to do this. But let's think about it. If V of I plus 1 should also be a condition. No, there shouldn't be a condition. Please, God, make this work. Make this work, Holy God. And I'm not getting the right feeling, so I'm pretty sure this won't work as well. I'm not getting the feel that this is the right approach to the solution. All you can do is no, it's the right approach actually. It's the right approach actually. The funny thing is that this was the right approach. I just let's copy it and then see it on our VS Code that it was the answer that solved the problem. This was the intended answer. It came up to 35 lines. Obviously, there is a lot of. It would have come to 35 lines, even though mine came to 43. So that's why probably my answer was not cleaner. So we initialized all that is the I used two extra curly braces here, which were not needed at all. Like, funnily enough, this was a question which came in our last step board exams, and basically we didn't like. I was one of the few people who knew this that if there are no curly braces and there is this semicolon, if there is a semicolon after a for statement, like it's here, semicolon is here, then it just I keeps on executing till the false condition false, and then it dies. I was one of the few people who knew that because our class 9 teacher taught us this. And so I was one of the few people who got this right. My one friend, my one smart friend who also knew this, and he was so sleep deprived that he didn't even see the semicolon. So he was very angry with him. With himself. This vector which I took. I think I took it in also a mistake from my part, but since we have already gotten an accepted solution, who gives a shit file? So answer travel the sequence second last element to the first. While a of I is greater than equal to I plus 1, answer plus plus a of I is okay. If a of I is equal to 0, just break. If a of I is equal to 0 and a of I plus 1 is equal to 0, then if both current and next element are 0, it's impossible to make the sequence strictly increase. Okay, so there was a simple way to actually write this code. And I was just once again foolish enough. Let's ask ChatGPT what does he think about our code, and then we will move on. And we'll move on as usual. TRLC, TRLV. अभी नहीं because I'm studying obviously. नहीं Anti-bot verification is not completed and it's done. It's not will accept. Just think how funny it would be if they say there's an error here. Also, I'm thinking like why there was a TLE in that case. Like why? Or I also think the set of bonus quality is based on the correct UD idea rather than my system. It was used of latest thing all the book of science for math science for. I'm actually really poor ChatGPT, so I poor OpenAI, so I can't afford that. Sorry. The problem is that when I wrote simply the first condition that if p of I is equal to zero and I is not equal to zero, and I submitted it, there was a time limit exceeded. So that's why I actually included the second condition. And when did include it, the solution passed and it was accepted. So I don't know why. And I was actually also curious that why in the first case there was a TLE. Wait, while we apply this and this, yeah, my considerabilities are more generally supposed in the execution release this station. This students are sign change. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the last condition like when I was using my condition, I had to use it for my condition. Basically, I needed this. The other thing because my condition was actually a bit redundant in many sense. So basically, for this question, we were given a set of or an array, and you had to get strictly increasing array out of it. And the one operation which you could perform was you could take an AI and divide it by two, and then you had to round it down. And round it down. It by round it down, it means basically that. For example, if it's 5 by 2, then you basically do the answer will be in double will be 2.5. But you since you need the answer in int or long int, you will round it down instead of normally rounding it up. So 2.5 will become 2, 3.1 will become 3, and things like that. And this is the one thing which you can do. So uh, the basic intuition was that from we will check the array backwards instead of going forward. We will check backwards, like from this will be the highest and we don't need to change it, then we will go here. And if we will see that if it's lesser than 5, if it's lesser than, then it follows the strictly increasing uh, it follows the strictly increasing pattern, and they will go to the next I, and then the next I. And if all the conditions are met, then we will just get out of the loop and print zero. But for example, in this case, uh, we check this and it's greater than 5, then we will simply just divide it by 2, round it down. And we will keep doing this until 6 gets lesser than 5, or there is a 0. If there is a 0, then there can be two conditions that either v of I, if like for example, if v of I is 0, but v of I plus 1 is not equal to 0, then we will not do anything and we will just keep on working. But if it's v of I is 0 and v of I plus 1 is also 0, then that means that our solution is like we can't have strictly increasing because two values are 0, 0. The one thing which I'm thinking of is basically a compressed version of my if statement, but my if statement was a bit more clearer. And this is basically saying that the only case where this won't be true is like if v of I is equal to zero and I is zero. And in that only case it won't work and the answer will be big. Because it's like if on the third index v of I is zero, we don't do anything because v of I plus one some value, right? And then we do I minus minus. So now we are on IDX two. Now v of like since v of I is greater than equal to v of I plus one, let's take for example v of I is five and v of I plus one we already know is zero. So we will keep repeating it, keep dividing by two, dividing by two, dividing by two till the answer comes out to be zero. When it comes out to be zero, we will again check this condition that if v of I is equal to zero and v of I plus one is also equal to zero. Because we already knew that the third index value is zero and now the second index value is also zero. So both of them are zero. So answer is minus. So this is a smarter version of condensing the conditions. Like they wrote the condition in a much smarter way that eventually this will be false or it won't be false in just one case, which is the right case. And I wasn't able to understand it, so I wrote a big condition with a flag variables and did the problem. Even obviously both the approaches were right, but it's not about who's right, it's how right you are, right? So let's do the last question and then we will end the stream. I think I should keep on wearing just a black t-shirt because black suits me quite well. Like blue doesn't suit me as well. Yeah, I get it. Why is there an ICPC no 45? Whenever there is an ICPC, it just makes me scared. Obviously not. I would have understood. If I would have came upon now, if I would have found competitive programming when I was in 10th, 11th, or 12th, I would have definitely tried for uh, ICPC because it would have been fun, right? Try for the world's best competitive programming contest and to try and win that. But right now, since I'm at tier three college, not even tier three, it's even below a tier three, maybe tier four or tier five. I know the maximum rating which anyone would have in my college is probably 1500s, and he will be like the rarest of the rarest folks if he has a 1500 rating. Like in the entire college, possibly two or three people at maximum. And if you are rated 1500s, then just shut the fuck up. You won't be able to do jack shit in ICPC. You won't even be able to qualify. Uh, if it was just me, then I would have definitely considered it. And maybe I would still consider it, even though I say it's impossible. Even with my college, I will still try and see that are there any people who are actively doing competitive programming and who actually have this ambition of going into ICPC. That's the thing, if I was in an IIT, I would have actually gotten the opportunity to actually try for an ICPC. But yeah, we can't do a redo in life. You just have to live with the consequences. So this is a D-level question. Lady loves playing games with bots. Recently, she has been playing the following motivating battle were entertainment. Daniel picks the word, for example, letter and on each game turn, Daniel calls out a letter, for example, each is removes the first sequence of this letter from the board. It determined on the next turn, Daniel calls out, for example, D and he removes of determine. The captain remove T within Daniel calls out the daily gets T, but there is no way she can get the word turn if they start playing with the board. There is no way. She can get the final word of her choice started from the given initial word by playing the chess game. Using or more turns it obviously help her figure it out. Okay, it is curious if she can get the final word of her choice started from the initial word of the chess game. Because then of the input contains an integer and the number of test cases is test case consist of two words as integer separated by each word consists of at least one and at most 30 uppercase letters. S is the Daisy's initial word for the game. T is the final that Daisy would like to get at the end of the game. Input at output and lines in the output a single line for each test case. Output is if it is possible and it's out. Like, form, why can't they get the word determined? Shumbrik. see how habituated I am to use n always as the size. Well, there are only five inputs which are very different. Um, A and T, but uh, good old flag still remains by come my good old flag. Let's do a dry run. Let's do a quick dry run for why this is not coming out to be yes. Okay. So length size. Okay. So len minus one. If s of I is equal to t of I dx xt, you do. We first check if this is not equal, but there can be different values of solutions. But right now, there are all. This isn't the correct approach because this is it's checking. This is not the right approach because will fail in this test case. Like in this test case, if we reach till here and then this is equal to, and then we simply check if is this contains in the set in which it does. So then in that case break, but we obviously don't need to take because uh, let's ask ChatGPT, but obviously we won't see our answer. We'll just ask it and leave it like that to think about, like so that later we can think about it. We can see why was our output wrong. Like I know it's wrong for this, but ChatGPT always explains it in a much in an efficient way. Oh fuck. So we are thinking in the right direction. Um, I will try to the right, but that's not what matters. Either there is a need to the right, doesn't automatically make it a possible right. In this example, that there's something wrong with having a right. Actually, not able to solve this problem. And I think that I should actually think about it with a fresh mind yesterday. Tomorrow. Like I think I can solve this problem with a fresh mind. So I will be stopping it here, and we will be continuing with this exact problem, this problem deletive editing tomorrow. So yeah, so yeah. Bye. See you tomorrow.